MG, another potty, just you and me, mate.
And see, I know it's feeling a little lonely without our boy, but fair enough too. When you're shifting multiple countries, so hard, especially with the time difference, man. I think that's going to be the challenge. But he's also like, what is he? He's competing on the weekend, right? No, next week.
Yes, yes, this week.
Yeah, he's got
Yep,
Italy this week. So and he's relocating countries.
yep, yeah, it's full
So
on.
he's definitely grinding, but we definitely miss him, bro. Definitely miss
I
him.
spoke to him last night, so they're 11 hours behind. So I spoke to him like 6, 7 last night. So it was 6, 7 in the morning over there,
Yeah.
and yeah, he was just telling me how he's now all settled in. He's obviously at his because Jen, his partner, has family over there, so they're all settled in there. He's got his own little office. He's doing some work. He's got a gym close by, so he's doing that. That's all worked
Did he
out.
say was he about like an hour out of London? Was that?
Yeah, he's got to travel in to go to the uni. He's got to travel in.
Yeah.
So he's telling me about that. But yeah, he's traveling to Italy this Friday because Reggio is Friday night. And then the show is Sunday. And he'll be on at the end, I think. It's like Men's Physique Pro is like the last lineup. So he said probably around about that 7:30, 8 p.m. mark, that time in Italy.
It'll be in
So
the morning about 8, 9 o'clock here. Yeah.
but and
Oh.
then after that, he said he'll be good to come back on the potty the following week.
Everyone's missing a little bit of deleterious, I think.
I know we're missing the brains. We're just not the brains here. He's the brains, so we're missing it.
I think everybody's is craving a few impressive words. I mean, me and MT can rip a couple out, but they might not mean anything.
We give it a go. We give it a go.
Not yet.
Um, so obviously, majority of shows have wrapped up for season B, and I know last potty we spoke a bit about reverse diet, some of the challenges and things like that. But also season A preps are starting now.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but majority of my clients have started their prep or are going to be starting next week. And I want to cover a really good question that I got asked by a first timer. They said, "What is the hardest part of comp prep?" So maybe you want to kick off of what advice you would give, say, a first timer, someone's never done it before, or what you think is the hardest part of comp prep.
A good one, man. Great way to start. Look, there's definitely multiple components, especially to your first prep, that are difficult. The obvious ones are, the training, but most first time competitors, and I certainly go all the way back to my first season competing, the motivation for the training, it's pretty much there all the way through because that's why you got into the sport, right? You didn't get into bodybuilding because you necessarily loved competing. You got into it because you love training, right? That's pretty much where everyone starts, and you love seeing changes in your body. So I find most first-time competitors get through that. For those that haven't really got down to stage level composition, the dieting towards the back end can be hard. But I think the hardest part, man, is being misunderstood by those around you, your circle, your family, who have not done anything like this and don't really understand the sport. I think, them not understanding what you're going through and not knowing how to support you, and also having to remove yourself from certain circles, certain situations that aren't conducive with your end goal, I think is one of the biggest challenges.
Not so funny is I didn't know what your answer was going to be, but my answer is exactly the same.
So true, isn't it?
Because that's exactly how I responded to that client when they asked me that question. I said, the training is kind of the same. It's going to get harder towards the end. Sure, you're going to have less energy. You're probably going to have to allocate a little bit more time to like steps and cardio. Food is going to have to be, strict 24/7 all the way through, no flexibility, no untracked meals, things like that. But that's all on you and things that you've done before. I
For
said
sure.
the biggest thing's going to be is your social environment and the changes there. The
Definitely.
change to you interacting with people around you. So making them understand that and support that is going to be one of the hardest parts, especially if you're a first time have never done this before. They've obviously never been around a person that's done this before. So they're going to find it really, really hard and difficult to navigate telling people, look, I can't go out socially anymore for food. We have to do other things. Or if I'm going to come out, I'm not going to eat the same food as you guys. Maybe I'll eat beforehand and have a Coke Zero when I get there, or whatever that may be. If you've got a partner, I said to them, your dates are going to be a little bit different. The things you do together are going to be a little bit different now. They're not going to revolve around food. I said, and they probably have to get used to the fact that, when you guys are, chilling at the end of the night on the couch, you're most likely going to be falling asleep on them most nights because you're going to be tired, right?
For
So
sure.
I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges is that socially you're going to be a lot different, and interacting with people around is going to be a lot different. And also just small things like educating others about fitness and nutrition. I know, you go to someone's house and say they're having a barbecue, right? So they've got meat in the barbie, they've got salads, they've got veggies, and they've probably got some other stuff there too, right? And you go there with your food container and you've basically got chicken and veggies. And they're cooking chicken on the barbie and they've also got salad and veggies. And they're like, well, why can't you have what I'm cooking the same thing? But what they need to understand is that everything that you've got in your container is measured and managed. And also it's of a certain amount to set you up for the rest of the day because you have calculated what you're eating for the rest of the day. If you insert something differently there, it then changes everything you've planned post that point. So even though it's still chicken and veg and it looks exactly what they're cooking, it's like you have to re-weigh everything. You got to make sure they're cooking it the same way you cooked it, without any oils and things like that. So it's small things like that that maybe the outsider might seem like obvious, like why can't you do that? And then you have to go through that explanation. And it does become a little bit tiresome, but after you are hanging around those people more and more and more, they'll just ask less questions.
For sure. They'll definitely get used to it. You just got to do your absolute best to explain to them the reasons why. But also, I always say to my team is like, also don't take it personally if they don't understand. It can be really easy to be, 10 weeks into a diet, feeling a little flat, feeling a little energy deprived, and to start taking everything personally. A lot of the times people are just, so busy what they've got going on in their own world, they just don't understand what's happening in yours. But again, it's not really a personal attack. And you get better and better at that as you become more experienced with the sport as well. But, as David Goggins said, right, you want to be the baddest motherfucker on the planet. And I consider, getting stage lean and shredded for a show, I consider that an elite level goal. It is an elite sport. So if you want to get to that level, you need to be prepared to be misunderstood.
Yeah. It's one of the only sports that I know of that you have to do the total opposite for what a sport is. A sport is normally performance-based, right? Like, you think about all the sports that are out there, they're all performance-based. You eat to fuel your body to perform really, really well. Bodybuilding is not to do with performance at all. It's got to do with aesthetics.
It's the opposite,
so you actually are starving your body. You're doing the exact opposite to every single sport so that you can perform on the day. So, yeah, it's not easy, and it's completely different to every other sport.
Yeah, and it definitely gets better. If you look at say mine or your first prep versus your, 10 years later when you went through a prep, the people around you were just so much more understanding because they just adapted to it. So it will get better. But for your first prep, prepare to be a little misunderstood, and again, just don't take it personally.
Yeah. Like, for an example, like throughout my whole prep last year, I'd still go out Friday nights with the boys, right? And we'd go to dinner and I'd sit there and I would just drink my Coke Zero as they were eating. And at the start, it was like, but then I'm on a fat loss phase at the moment. Last Friday, same thing, I rocked up. Are you ordering? No, I'm not ordering. I'm back on a diet. Okay. No questions asked. Like, okay, let's do his thing again. Fine, sure.
Yeah, and I would say, if someone you look up to, let's say you're a competitor and Michael Trimboli gives you some advice on how to conduct yourself, at family functions or events, maybe listen. But if it's someone who's not doing what you're doing and, has shitty lifestyle habits and that person's trying to tell you that, you bringing your own food is not a good thing, I would never listen to the opinion of someone that, isn't in the same lane or operating at the same level that I'm operating on.
Yeah. And it kind of feels good when you go through those things and you come out the other end.
Best.
And it feels like a mini goal's been accomplished and you actually feel better about yourself too. And you learn a lot along the way.
I love going to things and being the only person in the room who's like doing his own thing because he's got a big goal. And it's like, I'll bring my containers or I'll go to a wedding and bring something. I love being that person, man. And then you know what? All everyone wants to talk about for the whole night is that goal.
Yes, you're exactly right.
So true, right? How many weddings you go to, you bring a container and everyone's like, what should I be eating? What should I be eating? As they're putting down beer number 64. What should I be eating?
Yeah.
Like, you're not even going to remember this tomorrow, but
sometimes I don't even want to tell people that I first meet what I do for a job because I know where it's going. I know where it's going.
So true.
Actually, on that, how do people react that you've never met before and you tell them what you do? What's your response? Like if you're in an Uber and someone says, oh, what do you do for work? How do you normally respond?
Really easy for me, man. For the same reason as you get, like if you were to really explain that, like you coach natural bodybuilders for competitions, it can go down a rabbit hole. I just say my wife and I own a gym.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Easy for you
out there.
Yeah. I do respond and I say I coach competitors for bodybuilding.
Yeah. And people are just so intrigued.
Yeah, then I get some questions, but Yeah, and automatically they think like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like
Oh.
juice, so then you got to explain, okay, no, I only train females, blah, blah, blah. So it's a
Sometimes,
different
this
discussion.
is the funny thing, man. As natties, you could walk past us in the street and you might go, oh, yeah, you can tell the guy trains, but he doesn't look like a big bodybuilder. So sometimes, you'll get, oh, I coach bodybuilders, and you get someone who doesn't know is not in the sport. They look at you, I'm a 95 kilo, and they're like, oh, but you don't look like a bodybuilder. I get that as the first response. So I tell you what my job is, and your first response is to tell me what I don't look like.
Look like.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, love that. Love that. While we're talking about new competitors, a question was, how much does competing cost? Like, what should we budget for competing? So, you got to think that you're probably going to employ a coach for at least a 12, 18-month period at, between that 70 to $100 a week, let's just call it. And then you're going to have a posing coach that you're probably going to need minimum 6 to 8 sessions, and every session is going to cost you about $100, right? Then the actual comp itself is going to require you to register for membership for a federation. So if you're doing multiple federations, there's multiple memberships. Then the actual registration for the show, the multiple divisions have a fee to them. And then you've also got, so I say normally about a show, if you include rego, divisions, and tan, it's probably going to be about $1,000, right? Just
Yeah,
for the show.
yeah. Let's do a little running tally.
Okay.
Listen, so we'll just do like coaching. Let's just go square in the middle. We'll say $80 at, let's just say 9 months, right? $80 a week for 9 months. Let's just go. You're going to do let's say a 24 to a 28 week prep plus a little bit of a period before. So let's just say 9 months, right?
Okay. That'd be the minimum.
That'll be the minimum. I agree.
That'd be the minimum.
I prefer to say 12. Let's just go 12, right?
Yeah, cool.
You got 52 weeks at $80. So your annual coaching fee is 4,160.
Okay.
And you've got your tanning, which we said 6 to 8 at 100. So you're now at $5,000.
Yeah.
This is an annual cost, right? Then you got let's say you're going to do 2 shows, and with registration and all your divisions, we're going to say about 5 to 550 per show. Fair call?
Yeah. Say 600.
Cool. So 600. So you're now at 6,200.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a female competitor, you've got a bikini.
So let's just say another 600. At least it's more than that sometimes.
Yeah. So let's just say 6,800. Then you've got a tan for both comps. Let's just say 150 each.
At least.
Now it's 7,100. And then hair and makeup. Let's just say another couple of hundred for each show.
Another 150, let's just call it.
So we're for a year, and we've done 2 shows. We're about $8,000.
Yeah.
Then there's heels, then there's accessories, then there's we're not going to even begin to calculate food supplementation.
Did you put in there posing coach?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're about $8,000. Then people throw in photo shoots, those kind of things. So
accessories, shoes if you do sports model, like all this stuff as well. But yeah, like it's not a cheap sport, but equally, man, like if you work that out over 12 months, if I say $8,000 divided by the 52 weeks, it's about $160 a week, and that includes everything across the year. So like, I get people say to me, "Oh, do you have?" I got athletes that do 3 or 4 PTs per week, right? It's like, oh my god, how can they justify that? I'm like, but these athletes have transformed their whole life now. It's become the most positive influence on their life. They have great habits. They don't drink. They don't smoke. So $160, $200 a week to feel the way that they feel, I think that's a small price to pay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can get expensive, but also you think too, during prep, you're not eating out, you're not partying,
if you just think about it that way alone, not eating out ever for 30 weeks, and you're spending 160, which covers your whole 2 shows.
Yeah.
It's really not that much.
Yes.
I mean, the only people that'll tell you that it's a lot are people who probably don't train at the gym and probably don't have like a big elite level goal, like, a show or an elite level sport.
Yeah.
What's a packet of ciggies cost these days?
I mean, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've never smoked in my life, so I've got no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we went out a few weeks ago and the boys all had a nice daiquiri. What was that daiquiri worth? $15?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So like, and I think, for most people, that's a calculation that really you want to be doing, prior to committing to a prep. Maybe that's part of the initial consultation with your, the coach that you select to coach you is, hey, what's it going to cost? Break it down with the coach and have a little bit of an estimation as to what the year's going to cost. But, anything at that type of level, I think, comes with a reasonable cost. So,
okay, let's go on to the next one. So we had a question which I want to quickly cover about someone that's competing in Bali next week. Obviously, traveling over there, they're wondering like what food can they eat when they get there. And one of them said, is there any substitute to meat in peak week because I'm not too familiar with what I can get there and if I have cooking facilities. So what's funny is I've got Bridget going over there and I'm literally putting together her peak week plan. I did a little bit last night. I'm going to do the rest today. And I'm starting to structure the food she needs to take
Yeah.
because she's going to have maybe a couple of days there before the show. So I need to get her food ready for at least a couple of days. And I want to do it in a way that she's going to be in a hotel, so she's not going to have cooking facilities, potentially only a microwave if she asks in a common area somewhere. So I've got to make it as simple and easy as possible. And some of the things I learned a lot when I went to Korea with the girls, because again, we were in a hotel, didn't know what food I could buy at a supermarket, and there was only a microwave. So basically going to get her to bring boxes of cereal, honey, peanut butter, protein powder, rice cakes, oat milk, because it's a good source of potassium. She said she can buy bananas when she's there, and also going to get her to bring a bunch of cans of tuna and microwave rice. And that'll pretty much cover all the macros, the sodium, potassium I needed to take, and also the fiber content. When she gets there, I'd also wanted to see what kind of vegetables she can get. So even if it's simple as like what I did when I went to Korea was basically I went to the supermarket, there's vegetables there, but there's broccoli. We just bought broccoli. We bought a little container that we could put in a microwave. I chopped up the broccoli, washed it, put it in a bowl with some water, literally put it in a microwave, steamed the broccoli, and had that with the tuna and rice. So literally all she needs to do when she goes over there is buy bananas and some veggies. That's it. Everything else she should have covered. And obviously they bring like their different supplements and things like that. But that's the best way to tackle it. I was concerned about meat too. I was like, is there going to be like what kind of meat's going to be there? Is there chicken? Then how am I going to cook it? Like, are they going to cook it in a microwave? Is it going to? So I just said majority of their protein is going to come from cans of tuna and protein powder for that, X amount of days. It's like 2-3 days.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on. The only thing I'll say is, as someone who's been to Bali nearly 10 times, Bali is pretty awesome and easy to get shit sorted. So there's a big supermarket in Seminyak called the Bintang Supermarket, which is after the beer, which has everything that you need, right? And a lot of westernized products too, but like really good, clean, healthy chicken breast that you can buy from a proper supermarket. And what I did when I was there was when I was at the hotel, which I didn't have cooking facilities, the hotels in Bali will pretty much do anything that you want them to do. So I went and bought, say, 3 kilos of chicken and took it back to the hotel and asked the hotel if they could just cook it plain for me. And they did. I just
Oh,
gave them
that's
a
amazing.
container and they just cooked it all for me. And I'm like
Awesome.
happy to pay whatever, which they were just happy to do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So Bali's probably one of the easier ones to get it. Equally, I'd still take everything that Trimboli said.
Yeah.
But just know that there are a couple of like proper, pretty westernized supermarkets that you can get, very, very safe food like chicken breast.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Because sometimes you have no idea, especially if you've never been to a country
Sure.
before. You're like,
For
let's
sure.
just bring as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if
Bring
all
as
that
much as
fails, we
possible
just
and then just keep that supermarket up your sleeve. And if anyone's traveling and wants any sort of advice or recommendations, hit me up off air.
I think the biggest bit is flying. Now it's only a 5.5 hour flight, so it's not too long. And I think the flight she's got is like towards the middle of the day, so it's not too bad. So I'll get her to do a couple of meals before she jumps on the plane. They'll probably all be low carbohydrate, high protein, high fat.
Yeah.
And then on the plane, probably one meal that she'll have, again, high protein, low fat. And then as soon as she gets off the plane, then I can start to get her to put some carbohydrate in, go train. I think she'll be landing Wednesday afternoon. So it'll be a
Heaps of
small
time to
carb
sort it
load.
out.
Yeah, it'll be a small carb load on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the show is Saturday. And she's on the pro show at night. So she'll be eating a bit throughout the day too. Yeah.
And it's not that long of a flight that, you got too much concern about, fluid retention and stuff. Even me, man, I came back from the Maldives, which was like 10 hours, and I had a broken foot in a boot. And, I got up and down a couple of times, tried to move. When I got home from that flight, if you had a look at my foot, it looked like somebody had pumped my foot up with a like a basketball pump, right?
Wow.
Like, but equally, I had damage in the area. So I would say, like, if you're flying, just get up, walk up and down the plane, move some blood around, do some calf raises. Like, you should be fine. But if you're getting there 3 or 4 days early, heaps of time to sort that out anyway.
On the plane, just drink plenty of water. Obviously, bring an empty water bottle. Most big planes have like a filling station that you'll be able to fill up your water bottle. And yeah, just try to drink as much as you possibly can throughout the flight, get up and move around, and buy some compression socks. You just get them from Chemist Warehouse. I think there's medium and large. Most females fit a medium. I bought a set of large for myself. So get a set of compression socks too. Will definitely help.
I just want to give a shout out to everyone that came up and said hello at the A&B New South Wales show last week. Probably 5 or 6 competitors. And I had a guy competing, really, really nice guy, who actually came up and made mention that, we kind of got him through his prep.
Amazing.
Which is so awesome, man. So just want to give a big thank you to everyone that took the time to come up and say hello to me. A lot of people I hadn't met before, and it was so humbling.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to go up in 2 weeks. I've got WBFF this weekend, and then the following weekend we're going up for A&B Nationals, which is going to be exciting. Okay, next question. So this is about reverse diet or recovery diet, whatever you want to call it. How much weight should you be gaining per week throughout that phase? And then we had another question about how many calories should you increase for that first increase post-show?
I think, as the great Scott Morrell would say, it's so individualized, right? It depends on multiple things, ultimately, how lean you were. And, bearing in mind that being as, let's say that you were the leanest you could have been and you were the right condition for your category. And let's just say, let's utilize someone like a Scotty as an example who, at the moment is shredded to the bone. Being that lean, other than him stepping on stage to compete in pro shows, serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever. So the point of the recovery versus reverse is to try and put on a little bit of fat mass in a little bit more of a rapid state than you would if you were in a reverse diet. So how much, that weight amount will depend on the athlete, but let's just use, say, an 80 or 90 kilo male competitor as an example, who is who's shredded to the bone. I would say, as a rough guide, something like 3 to 4 kilos in that first 7 to 10 day period would be kind of the top marker that I would aim for. Post that, moving into a reverse phase, the idea of that is that you want to slow that rate of gain down. So there would be an update to the nutrition system where potentially for that next sort of 4 weeks, you're looking at something like 0.5% of your body weight across that 4 weeks. So if you're 80 kilos, you're growing at 400 to 500 grams consistently as a 7-day average, not highest to lowest weight, which probably means that your highest to lowest point might be something like 1 to 1.2 kilos across that next 4 weeks. Once you start to see some of that down regulation rectified, and that would be assessed via looking at things like your biomarkers. So, your energy, your hunger, your stress, hunger being a really big one, and definitely your sleep as well. Once you feel like you've got a little bit of recoverability back, then you may look at, slowing that rate of gain down again and moving into a more genuine off season where you're looking at probably something like 0.25 to 0.5% of body weight from that period after. So I would more look at it as a percentage thing rather than a weight thing, just because, levels of composition at stage are different, and obviously weights of athletes are different too. So
yeah, I normally do that first. So recovery or reverse diet goes for about 4 to 6 weeks. Let's call it that. During that period, you should probably be gaining up to about 10% of your body weight. So if you weigh 50 kilos, you're going to go up to about 55 within that 4 to 6 week period. I actually look at that first weight increase on the first week is probably going to be the biggest jump. And I actually say that's around about 2 to 2.5% jump straight out. Yeah. So you're going to see the biggest jump in that first week. And then from there, it's probably going to be like more of a 1% of your body weight jump leading up until that 4 to 6 week period, which then you probably would be around about 10% up from your stage weight. Your first calorie jump, don't be surprised if, from your lowest CALS when you were your lowest in your peak week to the first CALS you get given on your reverse diet, recovery diet, don't be surprised if it's like 500, 600, 800 or 1,000 above what you're on. So don't be surprised. Like, it was so funny. I had a client where I gave them, it might have been 700 above for that first jump. And they messaged me and they said, look, I'm going to go 400 above. I feel comfortable. And you know what my answer was? I said, do that, but I promise you that you're going to be hungry and you're going to wish that you went up to the 700. I think she lasted 1 day. And she said, I think I'll just go to 700. I'm a bit too hungry and I'm not feeling the best. I was like, yeah. And as soon as she did, she felt great.
Cool, man. You got to think of the purpose of it. Like, we're not putting you up by 700 calories because it's just a random number that we've picked out. It's to address something that has happened to you over the last potentially 26 weeks of dieting. Mm-hmm. And other than the aesthetic of being shredded, there's just no more need for you to be that way. It's not serving any purpose unless you've got a photo shoot or you're making money off that look. The health benefits to putting on a little bit of fat mass far outweigh the benefit of just being shredded.
There's nothing else positive about being shredded other than just looking shredded. That's that's it.
Sure, man.
There's so many other negatives, and
Yeah.
everyone that I've spoken to in the team post show, they're like, "Yeah, I'm ready to get rid of that body. Like, I feel
Sure.
so much better
I
with
think
more food."
I think the reason we see athletes, and you might be in this category, and I think we've all been there. I certainly was after my first prep, and MT prepped me back then, so he'll be able to vouch for this. I was connected to being shredded because that transformation brought me a lot of joy. Right, I transformed my life. I found my new passion. I got a lot of compliments.
Mhm.
So I connected all of that to the look, right, to being lean. So when I came out of my first reverse, I was like, oh man, I don't want to go up to the prescribed food that he put me on because I'm going to lose all those things. That's not what my mind was saying at the time. I can look back now objectively and I know that's what was happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
The reason why I didn't want to get out of that state was because I associated it with, all this joy that I'd got recently, comments, compliments, and I didn't want to lose that. Now I look back and I think how much time potentially did I waste staying in that state that I could have been improving so that next time I got to that state, it was even better. I think as an athlete, and us as coaches, the best advice we can give you is just think about that long-term goal. And that's why I'm a really big advocate of post-show trying to map out what's next. So you're always looking at the big picture. And we spoke about this on last week's episode. It's really, really easy to kind of go into your next phase when you know what the bigger picture is. If you're kind of going through the process of being a bodybuilder aimlessly without something bigger down the track, it can get really difficult. Equally, I also understand that there is some times to not have a big goal too. Right? Maybe you need a little bit of a break. Maybe you've just gone through a really big process, either a really big gain or a really big shred, and you just want a little bit of a break from the adherence. But I think for the most part, having the bigger picture penciled in can be one of the most beneficial things.
Yeah, I think if you don't want to set a future goal, no matter what post show, you have that goal of recovery. It has to happen. It has to occur,
For sure.
and you need to be coached through it. It's not easy, and it needs to be like a strategic and methodical approach to it.
Yeah.
What's we're talking about calories and upping them up by certain amounts, and we've seen some posts online about what you should be doing post show and how many calories you should be on, and you got to gain body fat, etc., etc. But you've got to adhere to it, though, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I give someone their macros post for their last show. I give it to them like a week or two in advance. I said, like, these are the ones that we're going to be on when you're done your last show. This is what we're going to do for your reverse diet recovery diet. So it gives them so much time to prepare themselves, literally put it in MyFitnessPal, work out what they're going to eat for the day and what a day of eating is actually going to look like under those new calories and macros. So at least they have a path to follow. The last thing you want is for your coach to give you your reverse diet macros the day after the show when you've got no time to meal prep, you've got no time to put it in MyFitnessPal, you probably don't want to, you can't be bothered. If you give it to them weeks earlier, they've already set in their mind, okay, cool, if I need to stay adherent, this is what a day of eating actually looks like. So I think that's really, really important to make sure that you're setting yourself up early before you go into your reverse diet recovery diet.
Yeah. And I think like also just for anyone who's going through it, because I know there's a lot of competitors I've spoken to, athletes who, on other people's teams and, friends of friends. And there's a lot of people struggling at the moment is be kind to yourself. Remember what we've said today, that a little bit of off-season weight is needed. It's normal. And MT mentioned a really, really good thing a few episodes ago, or might have even been last episode, when he said, think about what the body is designed for. So, MT said, this is my performance body. And the amount of time I spend in my performance body sets me up so that the next time I get to my aesthetic body, it's so heavily improved. So just remember, make those correlations. They really do help. I mean, even last week, man, my food's going up and I was really happy the way I was looking 2 weeks ago. Last week, I'm like, I noticed a few little, a little bit less detail. And I'm like, nah, performance, right? So making those associations can make a big difference. But if you're on a reverse diet now, you've just come out of comp and you're struggling a little bit, it's a totally normal feeling. And remember, comp prep is called comp prep, and off season is called off season for a reason, right? There is a little bit of added flexibility. There is a little bit more food around. Just don't be too harsh on yourself because you've just gone through a monster journey, and your time to be shredded will come again. I promise you. Just make sure that when it does come again, that you're a better athlete.
Yeah. You spent the time now
For sure.
to set yourself up for success later.
Sure.
I've got a really interesting question. Theoretically speaking, would it be possible to recomp down to being stage ready? Giving yourself a minimum of like over 2 years. Could you recomp your way down to getting stage lean?
Yeah. At what point is it not recomping anymore? Are you just dieting? Like,
Yeah.
there'd just be no. I mean, if you're calling it recomping to stage ready, I would just call it a really, really long, slow, prolonged deficit with no periods of being able to improve.
Yeah. You got to think recomp means adding muscle whilst losing fat, right?
So
This can only happen under certain circumstances, right? You're a newbie, maybe you've got a lot of like body fat on you, and you go into a deficit that you got so much body fat on you that you can still fuel gains, but also lose that body fat at the same time. So that's a recomp effect.
Yeah, with like a really high level training intensity.
Yeah. Or you've come off a big break from training and you're back into training, and maybe you're not in a surplus, maybe technically you're in a deficit, but because you haven't trained in so long, yes, you're going to gain muscle, of course, right? But to recomp your way down, there's going to be a point where you're not recomping anymore. There's no gaining of muscle anymore. It's just losing of body fat. So yeah, you're just going to be slowly losing body fat over time, being deficient for a long period of time. So you can't recomp to show lean. You can get show lean over a long period of time, but during that period of time, you're not improving your muscularity at all.
Yeah, you're like, the only way to explain it would be like, if it was a 2 year period, you might be recomping for the first 8 weeks, but the other rest of the 2 years, you're not actually recomping, you're just dieting. And the only like exception to that rule is if you're using pharmacology, but otherwise there's no other exception.
Yeah, unless you're not natty. Yeah. Another question. How many seasons/years of growth would you suggest for IFBB? Now, no other context, whether this is male, female, how far away this person is from an IFBB physique. It's difficult to answer this question, but let's just say if it's a female, and let's just call it your natural, you just honestly need to look at your physique and just see what muscle mass you need to put on to then play with the IFBB peaks. Right? Sure. And be competitive.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at a couple of really good examples, we'll just use like Scotty's a great example, right? One of the best natural physique guys in the country. Fact, Mr. Australia 3 times, like fact, one of the best natty physique guys in the country, was able to go to a natty show and win his novice class and come second in an open. So how long did that take him? That was 3 years. It was a 3-year off season.
Yeah,
equally, I've got some competitors on my team, bikini competitors, who are going to be doing IFBB next year. And, we took some feedback and we needed to probably put on a couple of kilos of tissue in a couple of specific areas across the body. So we knew that that was going to take us at least a couple of years doing everything properly. So I would say as a minimum, in a very generalized context, 2 years as a minimum. But again, if you are looking to, do like men's bodybuilding open, then that answer is completely skewed and wrong.
Yeah. You really just need to assess your physique, see how much mass you need to put on, and then make an assessment of how many years, months you need to be in a surplus in off season to put that amount of mass on. And maybe you need to assess as you go. You might not know if it's 2 years, 3 years or more until you actually start going through the process and be like, okay, it took me 1 year to grow this much. By that marker, I probably need another 2 more. So whatever that may be.
Can it be done? Yes, it can be done.
It can be done, yeah. How many competitions during any season would you recommend? Sustaining a peak, your mental health, that kind of stuff. So how many shows would you do in one season?
Yeah, I would always do at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably have never had anyone do more than 4.
Yeah.
Maybe the perfect number is 3. I don't think there is a perfect number, man. It's athlete dependent. It depends on the level of condition you got to, how early you were ready, how good the planning was. Let's say Matty Papper as an example, who just won his fitness pro card on the weekend. Side note, shout out to him. Congratulations. One of the best blokes, the hardest workers you'll ever meet, deserves it. But we mapped his season out from the big show, which was the Worlds in a week's time. Mm-hmm. So we did some earlier shows, but we knew that wasn't going to be our best presentation because, it was probably 6 weeks too early to being our best. But we also knew that his body doesn't hold being the level of leanness we wanted him to be for Worlds for too long. So we had to make a choice. Do we present something that's, not our best leading up to it, knowing that, we've still got 6 weeks of digging, or do we try and present our best package for the first show and hold it all the way through to the end?
Yeah.
So I think it just needs some really, really good planning. But I haven't really had anyone do more than 4 in a season.
I guess it depends if they're back to back.
For sure.
Because, doing one after the other, so 2 back to back is pretty common.
Yeah.
3 back to back is a little bit more difficult. I haven't had anyone do any more than 3 back to back.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done 3 back to back, like week to week to week. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. It depends on how spread out the season is, first show to last show, and how many of those are back to back, and also, what level of conditioning they need to be in to be competitive. Like if you're talking a bodybuilder compared to a bikini athlete, from one extreme to the other, that's a little bit different. To hold a peak in a bikini girl is a little bit different to holding a peak in a bodybuilder. So,
and even like use yourself as an example, your last competitive season, like you got shredded early. Mm-hmm. And then, was hard maintaining and holding that look all the way through to the last show. In fact, you decided not to do that end show because you just weren't happy with the way the look was. So, you're a perfect example of how things can change.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I couldn't hold it for that long because between the first show to the last show was, I think it was maybe 6 weeks or more.
I think it was 7, yeah.
Yeah, 6 or 7 weeks from the first to the last I wanted to do. And after the second show, which was a 4-week gap or a 3-week gap, the body just had enough. It was just too fatigued. Just like my mind could go there. I could do all the steps and all the training and all the dieting. The body's just like, nah, this is not happening, mate. You got to stop here. So,
and I remember, I'll tell the listeners a good story. I remember when me, you and Scotty went up to Queensland,
mm-hmm.
and it was after that second show. And we went in the posing room, we did some posing, and we were just having a discussion about you holding a little bit of water through that midsection. Mm-hmm. And I remember Scotty said, all right, go upstairs, jump on the treadie, do 30 minutes, and then jump in the sauna downstairs. And I remember walking into the sauna, seeing you sitting there, 20 minutes in, not a drop of sweat.
And I had clothes on.
Do you remember? Yeah. Literally, I'm like, what the fuck is this happening? The body was just like, nah.
No, holding on to this water, mate, not getting rid of it.
No, that was such an eye-opener too.
Yeah. Good experience though, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it at all. Like, it's good to know these things, right?
Definitely, man.
All right, let's move on to some coaching questions. Is being an online coach as glamorous as social media makes it look?
I'm going to say absolutely not. You know what? I woke up Monday morning and I set up at the kitchen table Mondays because Meave goes into the gym and works from the gym. So I work from home. So I can do all my check-ins from the kitchen table. And I'm sure you're the same. I didn't move from that little stool that I do my check-ins from for maybe 5 or 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Meave came home. We took the dog for a walk. Another 4 or 5 hour block doing the same things. Sure, I could work somewhere else, but you just don't. And if you want to get if you want to be productive and you want to smash workout, I was in the Maldives, right? So people are like, oh, you could have worked from there. I could have. It was hard. It was really hard. The internet was shit. Not just that, it just wasn't a conducive environment with being productive. So could it maybe be glamorous for some? Sure. I think for the most part, most online coaches will say it's really not that glamorous. We're certainly not trying to make it look glamorous. For the most part, it's stuck in a room and it's hustling for 8-9 hours straight every day.
Yeah. I think you can make it look glamorous, but I don't think you're going to be a good coach when you're trying to do that, to be honest.
Man.
And we're talking about comp prep, right? We're talking about comp prep. We're not talking about lifestyle coaching. Right?
I don't think any of us, you, me, Scott, I don't think any of us have ever done a story or a post like check-ins from a glamorous place ever. Because mine's on my kitchen table, man. It's fucking not glamorous at all.
I don't even have time to put my phone. The people that listening do this, so I'm sorry, apologize. But that put their phone up and record them doing work. I ain't got time for that shit. Like I'm working.
Yeah, I couldn't do
I
that.
haven't got time for that. So
Um,
think about all the best coach, and like we know who the best coaches are. Like we know who the ones that have high level athletes all the time at every shows. They're winning. They're placing really, really well. You go on their social media, they ain't got time for posting about their glamorous life or their life at all. None of them. All the ones I can think of, none of them. If the coaches are spending a lot of time showing their glamorous life, they either haven't got a lot of clients or they're not taking their coaching seriously. And that's just being honest.
yeah, I think well answered. Anytime, put it this way, anytime I've been forced to coach from a glamorous location has been a pain in my fucking ass. It's been hard.
Yeah. And also, too, is being a coach, you can sometimes work way too much. If you're prepared to be a good coach that wants to be high level and be at the top of their game and coach a lot of people, prepared to work a lot, a hell of a lot. On that question, best part of being a coach?
Man, I had an athlete on Monday who this was their first season, and they sent a message to our whole team because we were all kind of involved in their prep in some way. So myself and then Amy, one of my coaches who coached this athlete as well, who basically said that competing had given her so much and actually helped pull her out of a really terrible mental state that she'd been struggling with the last couple of years, and that she's the happiest, most fulfilled and most confident she's ever been, and every facet of her life is better now. And that message, we pulled it up at our team meeting, was like the biggest pat on the back or achievement that for most of us we'd felt. And like, this is not to discredit accomplishments of like winning overalls and pro cards, and those things are amazing too, but the best part of the job is taking someone who has been struggling and putting them into a situation where they're now living in a much happier, fulfilled state is the best thing about it.
I think that life transformation is the best part about being a coach.
Yeah. And I think that what we do gets, not coaching, but I think the sport gets a bad rap sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of really positive things that come out of our sport, man. I think there's a lot of people transforming their lives for the better. And, I understand that people are saying there are some, as Scott would say, some deleterious sides, like, relationships with food. But I think a lot of that can also come down to the relationship with your coach too, right? So I think there's just far more positives to what we do and the sport of bodybuilding, especially natural bodybuilding. I'm only talking about natural bodybuilding, than it gets credit for.
I think as a coach, you're doing something meaningful for someone else. And at least maybe there's some kind of legacy there. Think about both of us used to be office workers, right? For many, many years. And really, there's nothing meaningful about making a spreadsheet and a PowerPoint presentation, to be honest, right? But how rewarding and meaningful is it when you change someone's life?
100%, man.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. And man, if I make that like that exact example of what you just said, when I used to work in the bank and be a bank manager, and I would have like the greatest month in terms of the amount of loans we did as a branch, it doesn't even come close to the feeling of someone who's had a little win with their mental health.
Yeah. Okay, more coaching questions. How many clients do you have at one time? Are you taking on new competitors? Let's bunch those two together.
I reckon at the moment, somewhere between 45 and 50. I'm not taking anyone on at the moment, but I have an amazing team of coaches that work with me who absolutely have availability and use the same methodology as me. But me personally, at the moment, I've just taken a couple of new ones on this week, and that's me capped, knowing that me and I are just about to have our first baby. We're sort of needing to allow a little bit of time for that to fit into. So no, I am not, but I've kind of worked out, man, that's kind of my ceiling for performance. Mm-hmm. You've probably got a number, maybe it's not an exact number, but a rough number in your head where when you get to that, you're like, okay, now I'm starting to feel stretched. Now I'm responding to messages 9, 10 p.m. at night. Yeah. And it's just starting to feel a little overwhelming.
Yeah, for me, so currently I've probably got between that 50 and 60 mark, and I am taking on new people, but I haven't replied to inquiries in a little bit of time. So I know there's a bunch sitting there that I need to get back to. And for any that I can't take on, I refer them out. So to you or to Scotty or to other coaches that I trust. So maybe over the next week, MG, you might get some referrals.
For sure, yeah.
We'll see how we go. But yeah, that's my kind of number. I see it as I like to structure my week that Mondays and Tuesdays are check-ins. If Tuesday gets way too long and I'm doing check-ins into the afternoon, because I don't train on Monday. I train Tuesday afternoon. If I start to lose my Tuesday afternoon training, I know I've gone too far. Like that's too many clients. It's way too far. other than that, throughout the week, answering questions, those kind of things, it's all manageable. It's not too bad. It's not like you have 60 people messaging you every single day all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also depends on the level of clarity and information you give in your check-ins, right? And how
Definitely.
much you educate someone. You'll get less questions if you educate people and you give them a meaningful check-in. You won't hear from them for the rest of the week unless they need something really. You'll be good to go. So I think if you also do the work up front,
For sure.
it kind of allows, it's easier to coach people. So therefore you can coach more people. And I think we're spoken about this too, is I have clients that stay with me for a very, very long time. I've got a good retention rate. So therefore it's easier to coach them the longer I've been coaching them. So therefore I can take on more people because the people that I'm coaching, I don't say I'm not finding it easy, but it's easier because I've been with them for so long. If I had 60 brand new people, no chance. No chance I could take that many people on. And
For
they're
sure.
all brand new, not at all. So that's a way to look at it too. Okay, I think we're talking about, this is for you, MG. Does your team also do comp prep, and do they have the same philosophy? So I know you do comp prep within your team, you've got other coaches, but do the rest of your coaches do comp prep, and are they like you?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us and we all do comp prep. So me, obviously my wife is a clinical nutritionist, got a degree in nutritional medicine and has coached athletes to stage and done very, very well. And then Cole, who's also got his degree in exercise science, is also a bodybuilder and coaches a lot of athletes. But everything that we do is the same, man. We do weekly sessions all together. We collaborate and do check-ins all together. The methodology is all the same. And actually two of my coaches have both been coached by MT. So yeah, true, right?
That's right.
Who are both bikini competitors as well and great coaches. So the methodology that we use is all the same, as it should be. I think it would be alarming if you had a business that was using 5 different strategies for 5 different coaches.
So you all use the same system, right? And you can see everyone's too. You can go in and have a look, right?
Yeah, and that's the reason why we do check-ins together. Like last week, Cole and I sat down and Cole just listened to me do all of my check-ins. Now, he's a great coach. He knows check-ins better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But we're trying to pick up what we're doing with each other's athletes and be able to understand the decisions that we're making week to week so that we're both being consistent. Ultimately, I get that sometimes you look on, say, my page and you message and maybe you want to work with me or you want to work with MT. And I say, look, I'm not available, but I'm going to put you with this coach who does exactly what I do. And I think sometimes the battle is people think that unless I get you, I'm not going to get that same result. But I can 100% confirm that the strategy, the methodology, the systems that are in place, everything that we're doing is exactly the same.
Yeah, awesome. We actually got a question. Give us an example of what you cover in a check-in. My coach sends me 2 to 3 lines in an email each week. Do you want to go through what you cover in your check-in?
Yeah, so I use a video system. And I think I used to use a voice recording system, which was also great, which is what I think you use, right? You do your voice memos. But I use a video system where basically my face pops up on the screen, and every check-in will be, depending on the athlete, somewhere from 7 to 15 minutes every single week. And it'll cover the same structure. So we'll go over the week that was, we'll look at the tracker, we'll talk about the result, whether it was weight loss, weight gain, depending on what the goal is. We'll talk about the biomarkers, energy, stress, hunger, sleep. We'll talk about what the plan is for the next week and why. And as you said before, I try and give every piece of information possible. So then it's like, oh, he's explained everything and I totally understand why he's doing what he's doing, which means that, really, even though I'm available for questions, it should mean minimal questions. Mm-hmm. I'll then go into check-in photo comparisons and talk about the differences and, what the next steps are and what we're looking for. I'll then go into the training log. I'll set training targets for the week ahead and then finish with a summary. So like once you get through all that, 10 minutes is very easy to do. And that's every single week, regardless of, prep, off season, doesn't matter what the goal is. I think that's kind of what the expectation should be. It's really, really hard for me to fathom that you can coach someone properly, assessing data and giving 2 lines.
Yeah, not possible.
I want to know, I'd love to know what those 2 lines say. But if those 2 lines said something like, great week, keep going, doing a great job, no changes, I don't know, man. I feel like he's selling me a little short.
Yeah. Sometimes, that is the case, right?
Sure.
Everything is going well and there's no changes, but you should be able to give a little bit more feedback than that. There's got to be something in their training. There's got to be something in the sleep. There's got to be something somewhere that you can give them some more insight into what they could be doing and what they could be improving on.
Even something like going through each of those things that I just spoke about and picking something specific and breaking it down a little bit. So maybe go into a little bit more about sleep and the importance and what happens during the sleep cycles. Then I might bring up the photos, and even if there's not big differences, rather than do a side by side, I'll just bring up that week's and I'll talk about where I think we've made improvements since we started, and then where I think we need to make improvements to finish the physique off. Then from there, I'll go into the training and talk up the exercises that they've done really, really well on, maybe give some form cues, and then talk about the exercises that we could level up a little more on. There's plenty within a week's data to give some really, really beneficial feedback.
Yeah. I've got a question because I do mine exactly the same as yours, except mine's a voice memo, not a video recording. Yep. But obviously you send yours through email, right? So is it the Loom, you use Loom, it's a Loom link through email? Do majority of your clients respond to their check-in and actually type a message back and give you, or is it just they've understood it, and if you don't hear back, it means that all makes sense?
I'd say 85% respond.
Okay. Yeah.
So what happens with Loom is, it's a great service. As soon as you open it, it's giving away a little bit of an insight to all of my athletes. I know when you've watched it.
Yeah.
So I get a notification that says, MT has just watched your video, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of know that you've seen it. Typically, if it was just me giving you a ton of feedback that really didn't need a response, I may not follow you up. But if I was like, hey, I'd love a little bit more clarity on this, and this, I know you've watched it and you haven't come back to me, I might message you the next day and just say, hey, did you get the check-in? Just confirming. But typically, 85 to 90% always just send back up, appreciate it, thank you, on it all.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I always like some kind of acknowledgement that they've listened to it, that they understand it, and maybe they have some questions, because I ask a lot of questions back to a lot of people too, whenever I do their check-in, because I'll look through things and I'll analyze them and I'll ask them, okay, but what about this? Or can you tell me a little bit more about that? So I'm always expecting a response from a check-in.
Just an acknowledgement of the fact that it's been listened to. But that's the hidden little insight of Loom. I know exactly when you've watched it. It basically tells me how many times you've watched it. So sometimes one of the things I notice, which is awesome, is like, let's say somebody's had a really good week, or they've achieved something at a comp on the weekend, and I send the check-in, the views will go up to like 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like, I just want to relive that moment again.
Oh, so you can see if they've viewed it multiple times.
Multiple times, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's so good.
So,
can you explain how you set up your day to be a successful coach? So I know I spoke about how like basically Mondays and Tuesdays are dedicated to me doing check-in. So that's how I set up my 2 days there. Monday, no training. Tuesday, training in the afternoon. Then Wednesday, we obviously do the potty around about midday. We record it around about midday. So I train in the morning on a Wednesday, potty midday. Then after the potty, it's obviously going through it, uploading it, etc. And then I do program writing or any kind of messages that I have outstanding, which I know my phone's going off right now. I can see it. So I'll be getting to that. And then Thursday, Friday are dedicated to program writing, like plans, peak week, sending emails if I need to, or organization. And then basically Saturday and Sunday, I try to do the bare minimum. Hopefully work is all done and it's just answering any questions that come up.
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice, and I've had to evolve this way, this isn't the normal way I do things. I do like to just kind of go about my business, but with the volume of things that I do know, I've had to get really good at scheduling everything in. And like, I think I spoke about this in an episode ages ago where, Meave kind of sat me down and like helped me pencil my whole week in. So like 4-hour block for check-ins, training block, other block for check-ins, walk the dog, what time I want to get to bed. So like, and now that's just the norm. And I just work within those exact time slots and everything fits in beautifully. But it took me years to get to that point.
Yeah.
But I wish I had done it earlier. So if you're like a coach and your volume's going up and you're starting to get some really good traction and you're struggling to balance it all, map out your whole week, blocking your work blocks, blocking your training blocks. You'll just find that you're so much more efficient. And what it actually does is takes the stress away. Because if I'm like, I wake up on a Monday morning, it's like, I'm going to do 25 check-ins today because Monday is one of my biggest days. It feels stressful. But if I look at my calendar, I've got a 4-hour block, a break, a 3-hour block and a break. It's like, that's all right. I've got 7 hours. I don't have anything else to do. That's my 7 hours. I know I can get through 18 of them then, and then I just need to fit the rest in around it. So it'll help to alleviate a lot of the stress.
I think you're slightly different to me because I'm completely online, but you still have a gym face to face. You've got to go in there and stuff. So, and obviously you're restricted to when those sessions are. So you have to be, you have to structure your week a little bit differently for sure. Definitely. All right, let's finish on a bit of a funny question we got asked. Would you rather wear a moon boot for the rest of your life or chop off 4 fingers?
Fucking moon boot. Can I just say this fucking moon boot It's doing my head in, I swear. When I was at New South Wales on the weekend, all the people that came up and said hello, legends, everyone was like, how's the moon boot going? I'm like, it is doing my fucking head in. And
Yeah.
you know what? I've got a shit moon boot at the moment. So at the moment, I'd rather lose a couple of fingers. But when my new boot arrives, which I've ordered, I think I'm going to stay with the moon boot because you can actually do whatever you want. It literally immobilizes you. You walk a bit stupid, but you can do everything that you need to do. So I'm gonna stick with the moon boot. Which fingers? Which fingers?
Yeah, I thought about this too.
Because that matters. If I get to pick two from each hand and I can get rid of, say, pinkies, both pinkies,
Yeah,
I'll cop that. Because I reckon
it's got to be 4 fingers.
Oh, it's 4.
Yeah.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, I did the same thing as you. So I think the pinky and the next one are the ones to get rid of. I think you can do everything with the first 3 and the thumb.
No, I'm going to stick with the moon boot. Yo, I need these fingers, man.
Okay, what about this? What if you had to wear 2 moon boots, but they were good moon boots? Do you reckon you could do that for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
As long as the quality of the moon boot was good and I got to change them over every 12 to 18 months, I'm fine.
Yeah. Would you squat, leg press,
yeah,
RDL,
100%. 100%.
Yeah?
100%.
Yeah, maybe.
You had 2 of them, you could. Because at least it's even. The issue I've got at the moment is one foot's so much lower than the other one.
That's what I thought. I thought, look, I'll get rid of the fingers, but if I could wear 2 moon boots, so I was even.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 2 moon boots.
Okay. And I'll be super freaking tall too. How tall?
Man. I'm going to go 2 moon boots.
We solved it. 2 moon boots it is.
Solving the problems of the world, me and you. This is what happens, guys, when Scott Morell's not around.
Yeah.
All the listeners
Could
are
you
like,
imagine if Scotty got this question, be like, guys, this is dumb. Next question.
Maybe we'll bring this one up again and we'll get Scotty's opinion of it.
He's gonna watch this though. He's gonna watch it.
So I want to know what his answer is.
Okay.
I want to know what his answer is.
Oh man, you know what we forgot? Can we quickly do it? Have you got time? Olympia predictions.
Oh yeah, we were going to do those.
Top five. Just bodybuilding. Let's just quickly go through it.
Derek wins.
And Nick Walker is out. Did you hear about that?
Or his hamstring this morning. I saw it.
Yeah.
Derek wins.
Yes.
Hardy second.
Okay.
Samson third.
Mm-hmm.
That's my top 3. Derek, Hardy, Samson. I think Derek will win. Maybe Samson will be second and Hardy will be third. I don't know. That's
what I think. That's my top 3.
But I don't think anyone's going to beat Derek, man.
No, I don't think so either.
He just looks insane.
Yeah, I don't think
4
so.
and 5? Oh, that's tough, man. Maybe
Brandon?
No, I think he's done for.
Okay.
I think he's done for. Just going through all the winners. I don't think Hunter's going to be there again. I don't think Ian will be there again.
I think it's going to be Brandon and then Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter's definitely improved. Hunter's like 6, I reckon.
Out of that top 5, the only out of place physique is Samson, because all the rest of them are kind of short, aesthetic, good muscularity, good flow. Samson is just all that but bigger. So
Samson's awesome, man.
So I think that's going to be top 5.
Samson's awesome.
Derek, Samson, Hardy, Brandon, Hunter.
Yeah, it's a good top 5. I definitely think Derek's going to win, man. I don't think anyone will come in. I thought Nick would be in that top 5, but
I had him 5th.
Who else have we got? Who else is going to be in that conversation? Andrew Jack, everyone's got him in the top 5, but Brandon Curry, anyone predicted anything different than what we've just said? I'm just trying to see. Andrew Jack, Hunter Labrada, nah. Everyone says Derek. Everyone reckons Derek, but no, that's everyone's top 6, man. Few people picking Samson. It's either Samson or Derek based on all the top Olympians' predictions.
So hang on, what's your 4 and 5?
My 4 and 5 is Andrew Jack and Hunter.
Oh, where's Brandon? No Brandon.
No Brandon at all.
So Jack and Hunter. Okay, so we've both got Hunter in 5.
Yep.
Just that I've got Brandon in
and I've got
4,
Andrew Jack.
And so otherwise our picks are exactly the same.
Yeah, top 3 are, but yeah, I'm going to say Derek, Samson, Hardy, top 3. There you go, in that order.
Same. Okay, we're the same. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. This week.
And Andrew 4, Hunter 5, Brandon 6. I'll even go up to 6. There you go.
Okay, cool. I'll put Jacked as 6.
All right, cool. Let's see.
Done. All right.
I hope there's all right, one more question. Will C-Bum go 5?
Yeah, C-Bum's got this in a bag.
I reckon he'll go 5 and then he'll retire.
Potentially. But, this is the first time that he's worked with Hani Rambod for all off-season and comp prep. He's going to look ridiculous. He's going to look out of control.
I agree with you, man.
I think that if he wins it, clearly head and above everyone and they're not going to catch him, he should just keep going
Yeah. Well,
until.
I watched his. I watched his full day of eating yesterday, which was like a 1 day old video.
Yeah.
And some people will notice this, but if you look at what he's eating at the moment versus what he was eating this 5 weeks out last year, he's on like 1,000 more calories.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he was someone that, we said in the potty, people talk about how low your calories need to go.
He was like 1,400, 1,500.
He was on 1,500 calories.
He's on about 2.5 at the moment.
Okay.
And he's having some high days. I think he's 5 weeks out. He's weighing 250. He's got to get to 242. So he's like, I'm shitting it in this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like killing it this year. So he's like, I've had to have high carb days just to slow it down. Like,
again, if he is
different prep,
if he's so far in front of everyone, he should just keep going until someone comes real close and then just end it.
Yeah. But his thing might be because he doesn't need the money. He's like 5 straight retired on my terms.
Yeah, but imagine
he's got that autoimmune disease as well, right? So
that'll
be playing in his mind that he doesn't want to be punishing gear for too long.
Yeah, true.
And maybe he wants to be a dad, or who knows? Like,
yeah. Okay, cool, good. I'm excited for this weekend.
And then men's physique. I'm not sure if you follow it, but I'm going to say, did you see Jeremy Buendia's back?
Yeah, he looks crazy good.
Yeah, he's just his mid. I think his mid's a bit. His shoulders and chest have always been gnarly, and his back's gnarly. But the video I saw of him like just a couple of days ago, his mid's definitely like blockier these days.
I said because I see Jimmy Team Rise Above NRG all the time, and we're talking about it. I said, Jeremy looks awesome, but he hasn't got the abs like the other guys.
Right. See, it's also different. I feel like it used to be a lot better. He used to have this really sharp cut oblique line. Now it looks real blocky.
Yeah.
But I think Aaron Banks will go back to back.
Yeah, because he just got beaten, right? Recently. He got beaten at a recent show, but maybe he was off. So I reckon, Banks is first for sure. Maybe Jeremy might be like third.
I reckon he'll be pushing to get into the top 6. Pushing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Let's see how close we are.
All right, cool. This will be good. All right, let's leave it there.
All right, legend. Thanks, bro.
Good chatting. I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.